Welcome to the Brant Phillips Show, the show dedicated to results. Now, here's Brant.
Oh, well, guys, I've got a special guest with us here today, and some of you know a little bit about my endeavors into the world of studying about Navy SEALs and just really trying to sharpen my mindset to become the best, person that I can become and the best entrepreneur I can become. Well, I've got a special guest on the show today who was a former Navy SEAL. His name is Joost Janssen, and I know that's the American pronunciation, Joost, but Joost Janssen, and he has a very, very accomplished military career background as a Navy SEAL with over 12 years of service. He has extensive experience in overseas deployments in serving our country. And since that time, and one of the things that's really cool is since that time, also in addition to a very, very decorated military career, he's an entrepreneur. He's like us. He's delved into the world of real estate. So he's got investing experience he can share with us. He's currently working in Hollywood as a trainer and advisor, stunt performer. He's been on some really, really big movies, I'd say blockbuster movies for that matter. And you can read his bio here on the website and the podcast notes. And he's got a lot to share. And you guys know me, I'm all about mindset and how our mindset and our attitudes and how we handle adversity directly contribute to our bottom line, either in a positive or not so positive way. So I'm excited to have Joost on and to share a little bit about his story and help you guys, improve your mindset and go out and create better results in your life and your business. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce Joost to the show. How you doing, my friend?
Hey, Brant. Awesome introduction. Thanks, man.
Thanks, man. Thank you for coming on. We met, so to speak, through a mutual friend, Nick, who works in my office. Went to an event and he heard you speak, and we've got an event coming up here in the next week, 2 weeks, that you're flying into town to speak at. And he started telling me a little bit about you, and he's like, "Man, have you heard about this guy named Joost Janssen?" And I'm like, "No, I don't think I have, but tell me about him." He's like, "Well, he's a Navy SEAL." And he spoke at this event, and he was just like incredibly powerful speaker. And he's like, "You should look him up." And so I did. I looked you up. I've got so much respect for Navy SEALs and military in general. So I started looking you up, and I listened to some of your podcasts, and I went back to Nick. I'm like, "You think you can get in touch with this guy?" And he did. And here we are, and I'm excited to have you come down to the event next week. And I'll tell you one thing, man, that I heard you talk about, and I've told like half a dozen people. I shared it in a team meeting with our team, just about being strong and strong-willed and this mindset kind of stuff that they hear me talk about a lot. But man, you shared a story that kind of took the cake for me, which was a story when you were going through BUDS and you injured your neck. I think you tore some ligaments and maybe tendons and maybe even bones, and continued without function of your being able to lift up your neck for a couple of days, and continued and made it through, man. And I just want to tell you that I got a lot of respect for you, man, after hearing that story.
Well, it definitely wasn't a smooth journey for me going through SEAL training. And this is probably a good time. I'll kind of tell you some of the things that I had to overcome personally. And by the way, I don't know anybody that had a smooth journey all the way through SEAL training. It's just, there's always something or someone or your body or something's trying to take you out and prevent you from finishing.
Yeah.
But I remember training before I went to go, I wanted to be a Navy SEAL. And back then in the 90s, I mean, there's no YouTube, there's very few books out there and no information. But I had read somewhere that the Navy SEALs run in boots. So I decided to just strap on some boots and start running on the pavement every day. And you can guess what happened. After a month or so, I had the worst shin splints in the world. But I kept on running. And then it got so bad that 6 months later, when I went into training, I couldn't run at all. But I made a commitment, December 23rd, I am showing up for boot camp and I'm going to go. But I had every reason not to, because I'm like, I can't even run. I mean, my shins are just, I had stress fractures and shin splints going so bad.
Yeah.
And I decided just to go anyway, just based on my commitment, and then I went to training, and while I was in boot camp, I visited doctor after doctor and finally got some relief or a solution to it with some orthotics, but they had a negative effect of messing my knee up. So then I got over the shin splints, and then I entered SEAL training with a knee injury called ITB, iliotibial band syndrome, where the outside of your knee is so inflamed, it squeaks when you even move it. And I had to come up with a solution for that. And I remember sitting in training thinking, I am not going to make it a week in training, but I'll try to make it through the next day.
Yeah.
And I saw the class ahead of me doing some cool evolutions. They were on the boats going through the surf zone. And they were, and I'm thinking, well, I just want to get to that day. They were like in week 3 or something. Like if I could just get to week 3 and go through the surf zone and see those boats, getting tossed around by the waves and bodies flying everywhere, at least I got a good story when I leave. And that was my goal at the time when I went into it.
There's some pretty big takeaways from that, where a lot of guys, when going on a mission, whether it be to build a successful business or some type of physical feat like that, it's so many people try to think about the finish line when they mentally beat themselves up and defeat themselves because the pain and whatever they're dealing with is so difficult, and that finish line is so far away. But if you can just break it down into like those mini goals and like taking the next step rather than really focusing on the finish line, just taking the next step, that's really all you have to focus on.
It is true. Most people quit, and I came back later as an instructor, and I got to for 3 years, see these young guys going through training. And one thing I learned that is not the actual physical pain or the in-the-moment stuff that makes most people quit. It's thinking about what's coming next. Yeah. So we used to play tricks on them. We would get them all warm and feed them. Yeah. And they're all like cuddly and warm, and they're eating MREs. And then we start talking, and the sun's starting to go down, and we start talking about what's coming up later.
Yeah.
And how badass the next shift of instructors is coming in, and how angry they are, and how they're all drinking Red Bulls waiting to come down there and kick their ass. Yeah. And next thing you know, you got 15 people lined up ringing the bell. Yeah. Because it's something they're thinking about rather than something they're actually experiencing.
Yeah. Yeah. Some people know I went through my little. To you guys, it's probably a cakewalk, but it was pretty brutal. Which was the Kokoro camp, which was a 50-hour thing. And so I went into that thing, and kind of a backstory with that, like I couldn't, whenever, like going way back to high school, by the time I got out of high school, I had multiple surgeries. I had a plate and screws in my ankle, knees and pins in my knee, and wanted to go in the military. One recruiter was basically telling me to lie and I could get in. I wanted to be a Marine. The other one was like, well, you could be court-martialed and go to jail because you're lying, you're falsifying, blah, blah, blah. So I didn't go. I went into law enforcement. That was kind of my thing. So since that time, I've had 2 ankle surgeries, 3 knee surgeries, my knee's bone on bone. And 4 or 5 years ago, my last surgery, my doctor was basically, he's like, you need a knee replacement. I already have arthritis. Blah, blah, blah. And so I listened to him for a while, and so I kind of got down, stopped exercising. I'm like, well, I guess this is where I become an old man. I'm almost 40. And then I went through it for a while, and I'm like, screw this. Like, if I need a new knee, why don't I just speed up the process and do what I got to do? So last few years, I've kind of went on this journey where, I've fought in MMA, fight in cage fights. I've done multiple Ironmans. I've went through all this whole SEAL Fit stuff and CrossFit competition. But that's kind of one of the things that led me to SEAL Fit was I'm like, let me like experience life and let me just deal with the pain. Like my knee hurts already and not doing anything. I might as well be fit and enjoy what I'm doing and say I'm an Ironman or say I went through the SEAL stuff and like enjoy it while I can. So the SEALs take it to a whole nother level, though. I'm not even going to lie. So I started reading Mark Divine and going through the SEAL training. And I saw what you're talking about, though. When I went to Kokoro, so we started out, it's like 6 a.m. in the morning. Everybody's showing up. When I went, it was one of the largest groups they had. I think they had like 50 guys that showed up and 8 finished, 7 or 8. And so that morning, like psychologically, like these trainers and these SEALs are, they're getting into us. Like they're tearing you down. They're trying to find out who's the weakest link and that kind of stuff. And, throughout the day, I'd say they were really light, honest in terms of they were letting people kind of get their money's worth, so to speak, because guys pay a lot of money to be there. But, and everybody sizing each other up. Like, I remember this one guy in particular, he was probably, 28, 29, freaking just body like kind of Tarzan, kind of looked like, I'm like, this guy's looks pretty legit. Like he's going to make it up, make it fine. This guy, I don't know. And you're sizing people up. And then the sun goes down. And so the first night when we were there, they put us in the water and the water's freezing. And this guy happens to be next to me who I had seen earlier and just mentally made a note, like, I think this guy's pretty good. And some of these guys are BUDS candidates. I guess they're using this as a precursor to going into what you guys do. And so this guy's next to me in the water, and they've got us, I forget what they call it, but we basically have to lay down in the water, kick our heads up, our feet up over our heads, touch our feet behind our heads, and come back up. So it's pretty much impossible to do without like sucking in water, getting water in your nose. It is freezing cold. The very first time we did it, the guy essentially rang the bell, like he quit after that. And there was like 4 or 5 guys next to him. This one guy was with me, he was like 50. And we kind of looked at each other like, oh crap, like we just started and this guy tapped out. But it was just interesting. I'm not going to go too far into that because I want to get into some of the real estate business stuff, but just that whole psychology of how important like your commitment is and everybody's got a plan to get
it's definitely all in your mind. I mean, it is true. You can't look at somebody and go, wow, this guy looks like a SEAL. He's going to make it. You're usually going to be wrong.
Yeah.
Generally speaking, the physically gifted people don't do as well as the mentally tough.
Yeah.
I remember when I was an instructor, there was this kid showed up for training and checked into our phase. And he looked like Woody Allen, but a miniature version, glasses and all.
Yeah.
And we thought that somebody was playing a joke on us.
Yeah.
So this guy showed up ready for training, and the whole instructor staff just burst out laughing for minutes, thinking like, oh, somebody's playing this huge joke. And this guy kept standing there like he wasn't joking.
Yeah.
And he couldn't even start training because he had to get the PRK surgery before he could start because of the glasses and everything. So he helped in their office. But the running joke is like he's the nerd that helps us in their office while he's going to start training, and he'll last an hour.
Yeah.
But you know what? That guy, one of the toughest students I've ever seen in my life. Yeah. And became one of the best SEALs with 4 combat deployments and did some amazing things. And like you can never look and tell because the mind is stronger than the body.
Yeah, for sure. And I learned so much about myself, and I saw that play out during Kokoro. We actually had a guy die during Kokoro, and it was brutal. But there was a kid. I call him a kid. He was like 17 or 18, but he looked like he weighed like 115 pounds. And I think everybody sized him up not to make it a few hours. And he did not make it the whole event, but the kid had so much heart and grit to where he was like passing out, and they had to, relieve them. But I saw that coming to play for sure. So let's talk a little bit. Let's tie this conversation into real estate a little bit, or just business and entrepreneurship. So talk a little bit about your real estate experience and how some of these conversations that we've had and your experience as a SEAL, how those tie in to the real estate and entrepreneur world.
Let me start in the beginning for real estate for me. When I was 18, I am an immigrant from Holland to Canada. When I was 18, I came to the U.S. and went to school to be a paramedic and ended up staying there. And I started getting interested in real estate. Like, I came from an immigrant family. We never had much money, but I watched my parents. They would buy a house, a piece of crap house. They'd fix it up, and 9 months later we would move again and get a slightly better piece of crap house and fix it up. And I kind of watched them do it. And, I helped my parents do some of the work. And I'm like, so I had a little bit of that entrepreneur. My dad worked at an auto dealership as a mechanic and eventually manager. But on the side, he was always doing something to make a little extra money, whether it was buying old cars and fixing them and selling them, or doing the real estate. So I always wanted to look for something, and real estate fascinated me. Like, I wanted to own something that was mine. And I remember the first house I bought was a HUD home. Do you guys still have HUD, like Housing and Urban Development homes?
Yes, we do.
So it was a sealed bid. So it was a 4 acres, and it was probably about a 1,800 square foot house in really rough shape. And the starting price was $25,000. Which HUD needed to get out of it. And it was a sealed bid, so I sat there and I wrote, $27,500, because that's all I could afford. I could sell one of my vehicles and get $5,000 for the down payment, and I was approved for the $22,500. That's it. At 18, 19 years old, that's all I had. That's all I could manage to liquidate.
Sure.
And I didn't get picked. I wasn't the highest bid. So I'm like, I'm not worried about it. But the weird thing happened. A month later, HUD contacted me and said the number one bidder fell out because it couldn't get financing. You're next up. And I'm like, wow. So suddenly I became an owner of my first house that cost me $27,500. And I ended up fixing that up over the course of a year and a half. And eventually, after I went to SEAL training, I kept the house, thinking it's like, if something goes wrong, I could always go back to Michigan and I'll still have my house. Yeah. But once I got near the end of training, I called my real estate agent and said, hey, go ahead and sell it. By that time, it was already paid for. The loan was paid off. And I was able to sell it for like $92,000, which doesn't sound like much nowadays. But back then, I bought it at like 19, and I was 23 when I sold it. So at 23, having $100,000 net worth was what propelled me into where I am today financially. Because money when you're young, you can multiply. Now, if you're trying to do it at 40 and starting from scratch, it's a lot harder. Do it when you're young, and get a good win, get some hard work, get some experience in. And by the way, I've lost my net worth several times since then and had to rebuild it again. Yeah. But it gave me a skill set and knowledge and perseverance. And now, even just the last 6 months, I've taken some huge hits in my new business, and it just gives me more like determination. Like I'm going to come back and I'm going to figure this thing out, and I'm going to succeed. Because, like lately I started a cryptocurrency business, and 6 months ago I knew nothing. So I had, I'm spending 18 hours a day playing catch up and making mistakes and learning, and then not making that mistake again, and then just keep going. And then also, like, I've had the huge wins. I invested in 4 different countries in real estate, and Thailand was really good to me. I would go and buy, both houses and condos off the plan. 18 months later, they're built, and by that time, they've already doubled in value, so I can just come back and sell it and do it again on another one. And that works until it doesn't, until the market kind of flattens out. When it stops working, you got to figure something else out.
Yeah.
Yeah, I also invested in your neck of the woods. I had 2 properties in Galveston,
Okay.
and that was about one in 2005 and one in 2006. And our plan was to move out there after I got out of the military because I always wanted to live on the water and have a boat. And we were all ready to make the move. And then I'm sure you remember what happened in 2008.
Yeah.
So Galveston and Ike did not get along very well,
Yeah.
and it was a disaster. It took years to recover from those 2 properties being demolished and the insurance companies fighting amongst each other and not paying, and no rent being collected on them. And you go down the list, but it's you deal with it and you accept it. I like to tell people, accept your new reality quickly.
Yeah.
Once something happens, it happens. You can't pretend you can go back in time and change it.
Yeah.
You just accept it. And it's like, this is my options right now. And one of them is not curling up into a little ball and doing nothing. Like, you got to be decisive and make decisions.
Yeah. I haven't heard a lot of, honestly, I've got a beach house in Galveston. I haven't heard a lot of guys from San Diego wanting to move to the Galveston beach, honestly. But hey, Galveston's home. It's my beach, so we got what we got. But yeah, that's really good stuff, man. Really good stuff. So what is it? What is it you think that helps to drive you and push you? Like, I can't even put a finger on it myself. Kind of like what causes me to want to go out and create new things and to be able to bounce back, like you said about crawling in a ball and crying in the corner or whatever, because we all have deals as entrepreneurs, real estate investors. We all have deals that goes bad. I like one of my good friends, and he's a private lender. One of his kind of mottos and things like that he uses to screen potential borrowers or investors is he says he won't loan money to anyone who claims that they've never lost money, because he either thinks they're inexperienced or they're lying. So what, I guess, like, can you put your finger on some of the things that kind of help drive you and motivate you and to keep coming back and fighting for more whenever things go sideways or don't work out?
Yeah, and I still haven't figured out if this is something you're born with or something you develop as you grow up. But for me, I've always hated pursuing things that have a guaranteed outcome. For example, let's say I want to be a surgeon. Well, there's a clearly defined path that as long as you put the time in and study, at the end of it, you will be a surgeon. That sounds boring to me. Like, to me, it's like I want something with minimal chance of success. Like, for example, I want to be a Navy SEAL.
Yeah.
Now, if you run the numbers on it, I would bet against myself, because chances are, you have maybe a 10% chance of making it, considering just getting to training and starting and all the physical stuff and the fact that you might quit or you might get hurt. And you go down the list, the chances of success are small. And that gets me interested. I want to do something. The same with, pursuing Hollywood. Most people will tell me I can't do it. And when people tell me I can't do it, I want it even more. And I pursue it even more.
Yeah.
Like real estate, like I've had some major losses on real estate and some really big successes as well. And you need both to drive you. I mean, like if I know where I'm going to end up already, I'm bored. I don't want to get up and do it anymore. I want the unknown. I want the likely event to be I won't succeed. And that just gets me motivated. Like, I keep trying new things. Like, just 6 months ago, started a whole new business in a new area I know nothing about, that the chances of success are not necessarily guaranteed at all, and likely you will lose all your money. But that excites me.
Yeah. It's I'm very, very, very similar to my real estate endeavors and business endeavors. We just closed down a business last month that a few months ago I'm like, this is just it's a failure. Like, it flopped. It didn't do what I intended it to do. Now it's just it's taking up time, energy, money. It's like let's take it out to passion, put a bullet in it. But I'm not like beating myself up about it. Like I learned a lot from that. Like, okay, here's where we went wrong. Here's where we went wrong even in the beginning and kind of the thought process behind it. But to me, it's, it's kind of like one of the lessons I learned.
Hey, this is Brant, and I hope you're enjoying today's show. If you're at a place in your life or your business where you just feel stuck or you just don't know what actions to take to help you get unstuck or onto the path to creating the results you truly desire, please take a few minutes and go to my website, brantphillips.com. There's some really valuable resources and information that may be able to help you out. And if you're interested in really speeding up results with the help of a coach and mentor and adding true accountability and guidance to your life and business, please reach out to me from my website as well at brantphillips.com or going directly to www.brantphillips.com/coaching. Now let's get back to the show.
From, my martial arts MMA experience was that you either win or you learn, and that's got to be the mindset is if you win, like deals go good, you make a lot of money, dude, it's awesome. It's great. If you lose, like, is that really losing? You learn something. And so by far, whenever I win, I learn. Whenever I lose, I learn so much more. And it's something about the losing and the pain, whatever it is, the loss, the financial loss, the personal loss, whatever, I just feel it more, like those feelings and the lessons and the reflection on what went wrong is so much stronger and so much powerful than whenever I win. And so anytime I lose, I wouldn't say it's completely like auto-responsive where I do it naturally, because we have a tendency, like, you want to get pissed off, you want to yell, curse, punch the wall, whatever, get angry or upset, and I do that. But I'm really good to look for the lesson, like extract the lesson on what happened here and learn from it, and that's been really big for me. It's like, no, like, dude, like, we didn't lose, like, we lost on that particular deal, but we've gained so much more because we can use that to keep moving forward on the next deal. So, yeah, man. So that's really good insight, into for our listeners and real estate investors and entrepreneurs. Let's talk about the Hollywood thing real quick. Like, how did all that transpire, and what's exciting you in that field, and what are you working on in that area right now?
So that started about 10 years ago. I was still active duty in the SEAL teams, and Michael Bay was looking for a couple, real life Navy SEALs to put in his Transformers movie. And at the time we were doing something called Special Ability Extra. So you're an extra that with no lines or dialogue or anything like that, you're just running around. But then the special ability side goes that we're doing tactical work, fighting Transformers off in downtown LA. So it sounded like fun. And one of my childhood dreams is always to be in a movie once. Mm-hmm. And that kind of turned into, when I showed up, I got to start doing a little bit of stunt double work for Josh Duhamel, who's one of the leads in the movie. And then at a certain point, Michael Bay gave me a couple of days where I had some lines. Now, granted, that didn't make it into the movie, but I still get paid as a full-fledged actor. And to this day, 10 years later, I'm still getting quarterly residual checks from the movie because I had a couple lines that ended up not making it.
That's pretty cool.
And I just really enjoyed the process. I enjoyed the people, just learning. It's just brand new to me. And then I kind of like, for those years from 2007, 8, and 9, I floated around. I did a reality show. Funny, it's called SOCOM Hell Week. Like, SOCOM is a video game that Sony did. So Sony paid for this reality show called SOCOM Hell Week Season 2. And you can look on YouTube and see what we did. It's very similar to what you went through with Mark Devine,
Uh-huh.
but it was in a reality show.
Okay.
So we took the top gamers in the U.S. for SOCOM and invited them to try to go through a real Navy SEAL Hell Week.
Yeah.
So we had 1,100 applicants
For a full week?
It was a full week,
No sleep?
but also it was designed to. So it was actually maybe 4 days, but it was designed to look like it was a full week on the reality show.
But without sleep?
No, we gave him sleep.
Okay.
It wasn't a real Navy SEAL Hell Week. So I'll put it this way: when we started filming, we started with 28 people. 45 minutes into it, we had 4 left. So we had to stop filming and start all over again.
Yeah.
And you're like, dude, this is not going to work.
Yeah.
This is supposed to last a week.
Yeah.
So we had to start all over again and dial it way down, and then kind of when we haven't had a quitter, in 10 hours, we would ramp it up a little bit and get our quitter. So it was a little hokey in that regard.
Yeah.
But interestingly, we still ended up with 4 people making it in the end.
Yeah.
And it was the same 4 people.
Really?
And one of them was 50, like 51 or 52.
Wow.
And at the time we were going through it, his son was in the Army serving in Iraq. So, I mean, he had this no quit attitude.
Yeah. Yeah.
2 of the guys that made it ended up going through the real SEAL training process. Neither of them ended up making it, but they made it pretty far.
Yeah.
And then it was a cool little thing to do. But that's one way to do the Hollywood. And then in 2009, I took a little break from doing that and ended up working for one of the government agencies as a direct hire contractor, and then deploying. So I did about 15 or so deployments during those 5 years all over the world, and took a little break from Hollywood. And it was a dangerous situation. Lost a lot of friends out there doing it, and I got to the point where I was done. I wanted to. I still enjoyed the work, but between the risk level and the time away from the family, I just made a decision. I'm not going to do it. I'm going to stop doing it, but I'm also not going to go get a job. And so I'm like, well, at the time I still had some small businesses, some real estate going on and things like that. And I'm like, well, I'll just pursue Hollywood. And then I did a little bit of work here and there. And then I heard from that Michael Bay was doing the story about 13 Hours in Benghazi. And that was a story where 2 of my close friends were killed. And it was on the project I was on, even though I was in Yemen while that happened. I was flying back from Yemen during that whole incident. And I remember I flew home, and the agency calls me and says, get your suit ready and don't go anywhere. And I had not even looked at the news or anything yet. And then I realized, well, something went wrong. So I had to do next of kin notifications for Glenn Doherty, who died on that rooftop.
Wow.
And him and I graduated SEAL training together. And the other guy, Ty Woods, him and I were instructors together for years, and also real estate investors together in Thailand and other places. And so that hit pretty hard. And when Michael Bay decided to make the movie, I was very fortunate to be part of it. I got to be an advisor. We got to train the lead 6 actors, a full week of very intensive live fire training before we went over to Malta and started filming. I got to be a stunt double for John Krasinski, and then I was also cast in the movie as my own character. So that was really an awesome experience. And since then, I've never actually been in a project that was that extensive from the very beginning to the very end. But since then, recently I did the movie American Assassin. I worked on The Mummy over in Africa, filming that. And primarily, I work as a trainer, advisor, consultant, whatever you want to call it. The technical way is technical advisor, military advisor, and that sometimes leads into other roles, either being cast as an actor or doing some stunts and things like that. It's a lot of fun.
It sounds like it. It sounds like kind of your motivation was similar to mine when I left law enforcement. tired of working weekends and holidays and things like that. And I didn't want to have a job anymore. Honestly, it was part of my motivation. I went to corporate world for a little bit, but yeah, man, that's really powerful, especially what you shared about, you know, your friends and with being able to help tell their story about 13 hours on the screen and being a part of that. That's powerful stuff, man. Let me ask you this. So, you know, listening to you, talking to you, you know, like you inspire me, and I'm sure that you are inspiring people who are listening to this and just sharing what you do. So what are some things that inspire you, or some people that you look up to get motivation from?
You know, I'm not going to give you one name or anything like that, but typically it's people that are doing something with their lives, doing something great.
Yeah.
And I don't care if our politics agree with each other. Like, I know that what really pisses me off is like the armchair quarterbacks criticizing people who are trying to do something.
Yeah.
Like, if you're doing something, I could totally disagree with everything you believe and respect the hell out of you for going out there and doing it.
Yeah.
And whether you're an ultra conservative, an ultra liberal, I don't agree with everything Trump's doing, but I respect the fact that he's doing it his way, the way he thinks. You know, he doesn't need to do anything. He's rich.
Yeah.
You know, Elon Musk could just stop working tomorrow. Yeah, he is building our future for us.
Yeah.
It's just people like that.
Yeah.
That care enough to leave the world a better place. And whether it does or not doesn't matter. It's the fact that they're out there trying.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree 100% with that. Well, man, so what are the plans for the future, man? Like what is on the horizon for you, and what are you building for 2018 and years to come?
The goal settings, I always have a list. My wife and I will get together every year and kind of take account of what we hit and didn't hit over the past 12 months, and then set some new goals. We are doing every little area. Like, I'm not looking to hit home runs. I'm looking to pursue deeper in the areas that I'm getting a lot of satisfaction from. So the Hollywood stuff, I have a plan of not achievement, but I have a plan on what I need to do to get better. And so I'm going on that. You know, I need to get out more. I need to network more. So I need to get more people working for me out there, finding stuff for me. So I have a plan for that. And whether it works or not doesn't matter. It's that I'm actually doing it and setting myself up for potential more opportunity. And with the businesses, like I'm the same way. Like, I need to shut one down. It's not because it's hard. It's just the market changes rapidly, and the idea in the business we had isn't as viable as it was a year ago when we started it. Yeah. So it's not quitting. You know, it's just being smart. Going, my efforts and resources could go somewhere else. I have a few businesses that actually bore me to death, but they pay my bills. Yeah. And I try to hire somebody and delegate the responsibilities that bore me to death. Yeah. Because most people enjoy the predictability and the reliability of a fixed income and tasks, and they know one little area well, and they just want to do it and make their money. And I don't understand those people, but I'm glad they're there, because that means I don't have to do it. Yeah. So it's just learning how to delegate and things, and just release. I'm a control freak, so just releasing some responsibility to others to manage, and freeing up more time. Like, we have a goal that we did 6 months ago as a family. My kids are 10 and 11 right now, about to be 11 and 12, 2 boys. And it's kind of annoying. The last couple of years, I'm pissed off at how much electronics and TV and PlayStations and Nintendos have kind of crept in through our lives. Yep. So we made it a point where we need to do something amazing, with the likeliness of success being very low. So as a family, we have started already about 6 months ago. We're going to hike the Pacific Crest Trail from Mexico all the way to Canada. And that's 2,650 miles. And the likeliness that we'll finish with our schedules and the kids' school schedule, and the fact that it's a family doing it, it'd be a lot easier for me to do it by myself.
Yeah.
If you just want to finish, by the time they graduate high school, we want to hit the end. Like, we want to give them something, the feeling of achieving something that very few people in the world have ever done.
Yeah.
And then we want to do it as a family. So it means something even more than just doing it by yourself.
So have you mapped out like how many miles you need to hit each year, like reverse engineered it? Or how did y'all do that?
Yeah, I mean, technically, if we do 400 to 500 miles a year, we should hit it. Also, knowing that real life's going to take over and prevent that. Sure. We're past the 100-mile mark for the start, and we're still figuring stuff out. I remember our first trip we went on when we started at Mexican border. It was a 3-dayer, and we did everything wrong. We carried way too much water.
Yeah.
The forecast said nice sunny San Diego weather, and it ended up being a rainstorm and miserable and cold, and the kids had shorts. We didn't even have long pants for them.
Wow.
We totally were unprepared.
Yeah.
The rucksacks were too heavy. We carried the wrong stuff. Everything that could go wrong did go wrong.
Sure.
We didn't even plan. We thought we could Uber back to our vehicle at the end. And not only are there no Ubers that come out in the middle of nowhere to pick you up, on top of that, I took a solar panel with me to recharge my cell phone on the way. And with 3 days of rain, we had a dead cell phone. So we got to the end point, pouring rain, and I had 10% battery left trying to call taxi services to come pick us up.
Wow.
But a lot of lessons learned, and the next one went a lot smoother, and now we have it kind of dialed in. So we're trying to push the distance on every trip now a little bit more and more.
Yeah.
And then kind of get into the flow of it.
Yeah, man, that's really, really good stuff. Not only personal goals, business goals, but family goals that scare you that you may or may not hit. That's really good stuff. And then, talking about businesses that you have, and I think that one thing I was thinking about when you were talking about that is, talking about you have businesses that are successful, that make money, but you don't really want to spend your time there. To me, energy is so important. I remember, my whole goal when I got into real estate, I wanted to make a lot of money, but I really just wanted to be my own boss. I wanted to control my time, and I wanted to do things that I enjoy doing, things that inspire me, working with other people that inspire me, and not what I experienced parts of the time during law enforcement and the corporate world of just being in a box, doing the same things over and over again. It didn't excite me. I wanted to, be doing podcasts like cool dudes like yourself, and just enjoying life, and doing events and working with people and doing deals and just enjoying life, man.
I like that too. It's for me, my boring businesses are important because they afford me the freedom to pursue my passions and my dreams. Without those boring, I have one business, it's a window and door wholesale company. I'd rather stab myself in the leg with a fork than work on that Monday through Friday. But it takes me, I got it down to about 82 minutes a week average. I need to work on it to keep it going.
Yeah.
So on the Saturday when my employee logs off the server, then I just go in and just do 82 minutes of work, and then I'm done for the week.
Yeah.
And my part's done.
That's awesome.
And I do it because that affords me 40 hours of freedom that week.
Yeah.
And I need to stay involved. You can delegate a lot, but eventually somebody needs to steer the ship. And you need to stay on steering the ship and have a good top-down view so you're making good decisions. And I love it. I value that business, as boring as it is, because of the freedom it affords me.
Yeah. Well, 82 minutes sounds pretty dialed in, my friend. 82 minutes is pretty good.
I've been working a year and a half to get it lower and lower every week.
Yeah, that's good. I like it, man. Well, man, I appreciate you coming on. It's been very, like I said, man, I have so much, honor and respect for you, and appreciation for you to come on and share your story. I'm looking forward to actually meet you in person next week here in Houston, and you coming out to the event, man.
I'm really excited for the event, and I appreciate the invite and you guys taking care of everything for me. I'm looking forward to it.
Well, thanks, man. I appreciate everybody listening to the show. Check Joost out. Joost, is there a website or anywhere that you want to steer them to find you online?
Unfortunately, like a lot of my life, I try to keep under the radar a bit too. So I'm not a big like you can find me, online. You can see some of the stuff I've done recently. I did a lot of promo events for the American Assassin movie, so you can see me and Dylan O'Brien doing some training together with Live Fire, and you can see some stuff I did with military.com recently and things like that. So just using my name on the internet, you'll find some of the stuff I'm doing, although I'm not trying to build a big connection. I'm not selling anything. I am here talking to you, Brant, because I like doing it. I love it. I'm here speaking at your event because I enjoy it, and I enjoy talking, teaching, meeting people that are like-minded. Other than that, like this is not a financial side of anything I do other than my own enjoyment.
Yeah. Well, man, I appreciate you coming on. I appreciate you sharing your time, and looking forward to meeting you next week. And thank you everybody for listening to the show. And I think we're going to call it a wrap, my friend.
Awesome. Thanks, man.
Right. Thank you.
I'll see you next weekend.
See you next week.
You've been listening to The Brant Phillips Show. To listen to past shows, get updates on future shows, and find other resources or information about coaching, visit BrantPhillips.com.